Venezuela is often called one of the most dangerous countries in the world, and it's not without reason. The crime rates here are staggering, making it a place where even the most cautious individuals are at risk. In some cities, violent crime is not just common, it's a daily reality. Kidnappings, robberies, and gang violence are rampant, especially in urban areas like Caracas, where the streets can feel more like war zones than public spaces. Criminal organizations operate with alarming efficiency, often engaging in extortion, human trafficking, and drug smuggling. The presence of armed gangs and the lack of effective law enforcement mean that even minor altercations can escalate into deadly encounters. Walking alone at night? That's not just risky, it's a gamble with your life. Even during the day, flashing a phone or wearing expensive jewelry could make you a target in seconds. Criminals don't hesitate, and many victims don't even see the danger coming until it's too late. This state of lawlessness has led many people to avoid going out altogether, turning their homes into virtual prisons where they seek refuge from the chaos outside. The sheer unpredictability of crime makes everyday activities like commuting to work, shopping for groceries, or even visiting family fraught with danger. With no clear solution in sight, the fear of being a victim remains an ever-present shadow in Venezuelan society. But what makes Venezuela truly dangerous isn't just street crime. It's the deep-rooted corruption that fuels it. Law enforcement is often powerless, underpaid, or even complicit in criminal activities, creating a situation where justice is virtually non-existent. Many police officers work alongside gangs rather than against them, offering protection to criminals in exchange for money or favors. In some cases, officers themselves are involved in violent crimes, using their positions of authority to exploit rather than protect the people they are meant to serve. If you get into trouble, calling the cops might not help. In some cases, it could make things worse. Victims of crime sometimes find themselves extorted by the very people who should be helping them, forced to pay bribes just to ensure their safety. The justice system is equally broken, with corrupt judges and prosecutors who prioritize their own financial gain over the pursuit of justice. For the average Venezuelan, this means that seeking legal recourse is often a futile endeavor, as cases go unresolved and criminals walk free. Extortion by law enforcement is a common occurrence, and bribery is an unspoken rule of survival. If you have money, you might be able to get out of a bad situation. If you don't, you're on your own. This level of corruption has eroded public trust in institutions, leaving people feeling abandoned by their own government. Without a functioning legal system, crime continues to flourish, and ordinary citizens are left with no choice but to fend for themselves in an increasingly hostile environment. Then there's the economic collapse. Inflation has turned the local currency into near-worthless paper. The black market thrives while supermarkets sit empty. People wait in endless lines just to buy basic necessities. There are stories of businesses being looted in minutes, of entire neighborhoods descending into chaos. Hospitals struggle to keep up, with life-saving equipment shutting down unexpectedly. Imagine needing emergency medical care only to find out the hospital has no electricity or medicine. This is the grim reality many Venezuelans face. Water shortages are another overlooked danger. Running water is not guaranteed, and in some areas it's only available for a few hours a day, if at all. People store water in whatever containers they can find, but that comes with its own risks. Stagnant water breeds disease, and sanitation becomes a serious concern. Dengue fever, malaria, and other illnesses spread rapidly in these conditions. When you don't even have access to clean drinking water, survival takes on a whole new meaning. But perhaps the most unpredictable danger of all is the political instability. Protests erupt without warning, and when they do, they turn violent fast. The people of Venezuela, frustrated by years of corruption, economic mismanagement, and human rights abuses, often take to the streets to demand change. However, these demonstrations rarely remain peaceful for long. tear gas, rubber bullets, and even live ammunition have been used against demonstrators. The government's response is swift and brutal, as security forces crack down on anyone perceived as a threat. Citizens who attempt to voice their dissatisfaction risk their lives, and being in the wrong place at the wrong time can be a death sentence. Venezuela is a country where fear is part of everyday life. Danger doesn't just lurk in dark alleys, it's in broad daylight, at the gas stations, in the grocery stores, and woven into the very fabric of society. The constant threat of crime, economic hardship, and political turmoil makes survival a daily struggle for millions. And yet, despite it all, many people still call Venezuela home. Families hold on to hope, believing that one day things will improve. Communities come together to support one another, finding ways to endure the hardships. However, for outsiders, the reality is starkly different. Tourists and foreigners who set foot in Venezuela face immense risks. Kidnappings, scams, and violence are all too common. Navigating the country without insider knowledge or trusted local contacts can be dangerous. What may seem like a simple act, taking a taxi, withdrawing money from an ATM, or even asking for directions, can turn into a life-threatening situation. For those unfamiliar with Venezuela's complexities, stepping off the plane might just be the biggest risk they ever take. The dangers of Venezuela extend beyond just the cities and towns. The remote areas, particularly near the borders, are even more treacherous. The border with Colombia, for instance, is a hotspot for illegal activities, including drug trafficking, smuggling, and armed militant groups. These regions operate under the control of criminal organizations rather than the government, making them some of the most lawless areas on Earth. Armed groups patrol these territories, extorting locals and engaging in violent clashes with rival factions. If you're caught in the wrong place, you could end up being used for ransom, or worse. Reports of kidnappings and disappearances are common, and even the authorities hesitate to intervene in these high-risk zones. Smugglers, guerrilla fighters, and cartels run operations with near impunity, exploiting the lack of state control. Civilians living in these areas endure extreme hardship, often forced to comply with the demands of criminal groups for their own safety. The lawlessness near the borders highlights just how little influence the Venezuelan government has over vast portions of its own territory, leaving many citizens at the mercy of armed criminals. Another major concern is the lack of medical resources. The healthcare system in Venezuela has been in a state of collapse for years. Hospitals lack essential medicines, medical supplies, and even basic sanitation. If you get sick or injured, there's no guarantee that you'll receive proper treatment. Many doctors have fled the country, leaving hospitals understaffed. Patients are often turned away, or have to provide their own medical supplies, if they can find them at all. Infections spread easily in these conditions, making even minor illnesses potentially life-threatening. Food insecurity is another massive issue. Due to the economic collapse, food shortages are widespread. Families struggle to put meals on the table, and malnutrition is a growing concern, especially among children. The government has implemented food rationing systems, but corruption means that those with connections get priority. The black market thrives, but prices are astronomical. Some people have resorted to scavenging through garbage just to find something to eat. When a country can't feed its own people, desperation becomes a way of life. The transportation system is also in shambles. Public transport is unreliable, with buses and taxis in poor condition. Long-distance travel is risky, as roads are often controlled by criminals who set up fake checkpoints to rob travelers. Carjackings are frequent, and even airports are not safe from corruption. Tourists who try to rent vehicles or take taxis have reported being scammed, overcharged, or even kidnapped for ransom. Moving from one place to another in Venezuela is a dangerous endeavor in itself. Another horrifying aspect of life in Venezuela is the rise of organized crime syndicates. These groups operate with near impunity, running illegal businesses ranging from drug trafficking to human smuggling. Many of these syndicates have ties to corrupt officials, making it nearly impossible to dismantle them. They enforce their rule with extreme violence, and those who challenge them often disappear without a trace. The streets are patrolled not just by law enforcement but by these shadowy figures who hold true power in many neighborhoods. Even the air you breathe in Venezuela can be dangerous. Pollution levels have risen due to lack of environmental regulations and failing infrastructure. Industrial waste is dumped into rivers, contaminating water sources. Air pollution from outdated vehicles and factories makes respiratory diseases more common. Climate-related disasters such as flooding and landslides are becoming more frequent, displacing thousands of people and further worsening living conditions. And yet, despite all of this, life goes on. The resilience of the Venezuelan people is astonishing. They find ways to survive, to adapt, and to hold on to hope. But for those who don't have to endure these dangers every day, the question remains: would you risk visiting one of the most dangerous countries in the world? Would you ever visit Venezuela knowing all this? Let me know in the comments. And if you found this eye-opening, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned for more crazy facts from around the world. Until next time, stay safe.